Hey everybody, welcome to the Twisted Cat Outdoors podcast, where we give you information on tournaments, events, everything in the catfishing world, bringing you value, tips and tricks, things that you can do out there on the water. Let's get this show started.
I think I just set a Twisted Cat Outdoors 3-fish record.
All right, hey everybody, welcome Monday night podcast. Back at it, just making sure, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me good. If you're on Facebook, let me know you're on Facebook or YouTube. For some reason, the Facebook link's not working. I don't know, on my end. What's up, Jeremy, Calvin, Wyatt, Richard? We got a big show tonight, kind of getting back to, our Monday night grind. We've been doing a lot of traveling lately. The reason I might have been a minute late, Richard, is I was in Carthage, which was about a half hour from my house. Rhett had a 5th grade basketball game. So that's where I'm coming from right now. Just got back. Facebook is good. I'm using Facebook. So we did a Eagles versus Chiefs Facebook post. Somebody's going to win a hat and a t-shirt. And that is Mr. Gilbert Jimenez was the closest one. Some of you were pretty smooth trying to come in at like halftime, third quarter. But Gilbert was the closest guess. So we're going to send him some swag. By the way, I liked Kendrick Lamar. I'm a Kendrick Lamar fan. I know some of the history, so it's also showing my age that a lot of my friends don't know who Kendrick Lamar is. But so don't hate me if you didn't like the halftime show. I did like it. I was actually listening to some Kendrick Lamar with Red on the way out to Carthage. But anyways, besides that, sorry for all the Chiefs fans that they didn't get that three-peat, but it was still a fun game to watch, the Super Bowl. The Bills weren't in it, so I wasn't too happy. But anyway, still a good game, fun commercials, good halftime show. But don't throw any hate at me. And congrats, Gilbert. We got a lot of things coming up. While a few of are still jumping on, I'm going to make sure our special guest, I'm wearing some OG swag. This hat's probably worth like $500 by now. I want to make sure he's good. I'm going to play a video from about a year ago in Alton, because next stop, March 1st, actually February 21st and 2nd, Friday, Saturday, Catfish Crappie Conference in Louisville, Kentucky. You don't want to miss it. Twisted Cat will be there. We'll have merch for sale, some goodies. That'll be fun. And then the next weekend, we're kicking off our Alton, Illinois, March 1st, Stop 3 tournament of the season. Wednesday afternoon, I will announce the championship if everything goes good, and we'll have a full schedule up that you've almost seen. And then also tonight, I'll show you how to get rules. Everybody's been asking, what's the ramps for this? What's this? We got a super simple way that you can go right on the website, find out all that info as quick as you can. What's up, Jeremy? But real quick, let's play this last video. Let everybody jump in, and then we'll bring our special guest on tonight. And maybe we'll have a halftime show. Who knows? All right. Here we go. I got sound here. All right, you guys got sound on me. So sorry about that. I got to get my sound guy when I get this live stream going, helping me out. But anyways, you can watch that video and you can see the excitement. Casting camo. I know I need to get you on here, help me with that. But you can see the excitement in that video. We're super, super excited. Again, this is the 11th year for Twisted Cat Outdoors. And what's up, Monty? And like I said, we started off January 4th in Decatur, Alabama for the Bama Blues event. We went to Texas. Now we're going to Illinois. So we're kind of going all over the place. And we're excited to hopefully announce a championship Wednesday afternoon and have the full schedule out Wednesday. Might even do a special live Wednesday evening to kind of go over that. And like I said, if there's any questions you have, tonight's the night to ask. We got a special guest, and I've known Bryan for quite some time. I don't know how long, but it's been long enough where we talk a little bit of crap to each other back and forth. But we have a lot of fun, fish against each other, fish together, and we'll probably do some more. Hopefully, some 1v1 stuff coming up soon. But tonight's the night to ask those questions. We're going to dive deep. Who knows where it'll go? It could go way left. It could go way right. But we're going to have some fun. So without further ado, let's bring my buddy Bryan St in to the stage.
Hey, what's up?
You got the video working good?
Yeah, I had to call my wife, as usual.
Dude, it's been a while since you've been on. I think the last time I had you on, I was in my garage. You were outside. We were getting ready to do a 1v1 challenge down in Louisiana. It's been some time, 2 years now since you've been on the show, I think.
Yeah, it has. It's been a while.
Lots of things have changed. Each year, it's always something new. Whether it's tournament world, tackle, any of that stuff. And I guess there's some people that maybe don't know you on here. Maybe kind of introduce yourself. Talk about your brand. I'm repping this, which is probably worth some money today. Like, I don't even let this doesn't leave the house anymore.
Right.
I don't want to get stolen.
I started to put mine on earlier. Yeah, those are collector's items now. So my name is Bryan St. I got into the industry, I don't know, 9 years ago, I think originally. Started Cat Master Tournament Trail. And it kind of got started from there. I guess a couple of years ago, I got sick. And then I kind of fell off on the Cat Master stuff and didn't want to do it. Not that I didn't want to do it anymore. It was just health reasons, wasn't working out. So I'm just fishing now. We started Draggin Masters, I guess 2.5 years ago, tackle company, and that's doing really well. So just working, fishing, a lot more fishing now. Still get comments wanting, when's Cat Masters going to start back up? It's not. We're going to fish Twisted Cat Outdoors, and that's it. Recreational fish and make tackle.
Yeah, I've seen you at a lot of my events. You've been, fishing up in Burlington, Iowa, and I was talking to a guy the other day about, just how tackles evolved in the last couple of years, and really each year it's more and more. But 2 years ago, there was barely anybody dragging in Pool 19 on the Mississippi River, and then you showed up, last year and got to see that for yourself. I mean, planer boards were getting sold, your tackles getting sold. I mean, everybody's dragging. And that's a new technique. And, you've got several different items or products that help you not get snagged. And what's your motto there? What's your saying?
More dragging, less snagging.
More dragging, less snagging. I like it. So what do you think with the dragging? I mean, a lot more people are doing it now, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing, it seems like 8, 9, 10 years ago, we were all, if you think about a lot of us here in Texas, we mostly double anchored. We drift fish, kind of took off, and that kind of opened up a lot of different ways to fish, cover more ground. A lot of different dragging wakes started being developed. It kind of went from there. And now if you go out on a lake, like say like Lake Tawakoni, majority of the time you would see everybody double anchored if it was in the deep water or shallow water. Now if you go out there, everybody's drifting. And drifting's not something that's new. It's just I remember as a kid with my parents drifting for catfish. That's all we did. We hardly ever anchored, but that was getting the pontoon boat and throw out some socks and just start drifting. Rods are bouncing because you got big weights on, and but things have changed. But you see a lot more people drifting using planer boards. There's a lot of good planer boards out on the market. A lot of different planer boards. Back when I started dragging with boards, it was mostly what we learned from when we were striper fishing. And then you started seeing more of the catfish industry building planer boards that were more towards how we use bigger weights and stuff like that. So it's come a long way. Don't seem like it was
Yeah.
that long ago, but so that's what our Draggin Master. When I started doing the tournament stuff at PK, I live here at Possum Kingdom Lake, and it's a lot of structure. It's very similar to Ouachita Lake, what we saw there, a lot of big trees, and there's not a lot of good areas on Possum Kingdom to drift or drag baits. So it kind of started there, trying to figure out a way to develop something to drag through trees. And I started off with, I have a welding shop and took a MIG liner from a MIG welder, and that was my first dragon weight. It was a little bit stiff, but it kind of came from there. That worked. It just didn't work very good, and it's very similar to what we have now. It's an inline weight. It's less tackle. It's kind of a smooth way to go through the water. When you're dragging with our inline weight, and you've done it, the tips of your rods don't even move. Um, and you're on bottom. A lot of people feel like they're not on bottom when you're doing that, but it's on bottom. You'll still get hung. You'll still lose tackle with our stuff. It's not 100% proof. There's nothing that is. But to me, it's more of a unique way. It's not so much towards the snagging part. It's something different. To me, it's like, as a bass fisherman, you're not always going to throw the same lure. To me, it's a different presentation to the fish, something different, a different top weight. They're going to see it different. The sound's going to be different than a weight that's long or short, lead or whatever, that's dangling off a three-way line. This is smooth going through there, so it's a different kind of action.
Yeah, and like just a different presentation. And I actually gave a little speech presentation last Friday night for the Pike County Anglers Association. We were talking kind of about a mixture of everything from live scope and tackle, and how just in catfishing, which I was talking to some crappie and bass people too, but explaining like there's a lot more catfish specific products now than there was 3, 5, 10 years ago. And then now you're even seeing the bigger companies get involved. Mustad's coming out with rods, and a lot of these big companies are stepping up. So, and then like the stuff that you've came out with, I mean, we've got a lot more catfish specific products. I've used, I think, everything you've got a lot of good anglers on your team. And it's like I said, I'm sure you're selling a ton of that because it's an awesome setup. It's streamlined. I've got a bunch of them rigged up. What about different rigs when you're dragging? Maybe get into, I mean, some people are doing some crazy stuff. I mean,
Right.
obviously, when we had a little tournament just a month or so ago, and I went to the Walmart in this Louisiana town, and I got so crazy where I got like the popping corks, and ended up my bait was so high up in the water column that I had birds coming down and getting it, but
Right.
still catching fish and learning. And like I said, man, I don't know. There's just so much new, and I think with YouTube and social media and everything, you're seeing a lot more stuff put out. You know what I mean? You take like a JT Ray that I know he was doing a special rig with your stuff, and then people seen it, and now I think a lot of people are doing it, which I'm doing it, and I've caught a lot of fish. Actually, Liz's personal best is on that rig, with the hook off the front.
Yeah, we call it a double leader rig.
And that's a serious double leader. I mean, you're talking, depending on what you do, you might be 3 foot, 4 foot between the bait.
Yeah, I think the first time that Coy and I put that together was at your Keystone tournament, and
Yeah.
that's where we started using it. And we don't like to use it when we're we like to target a lot of heavy structure, and we tend to not try that because that's just that's more hooks and line to drag over structure. But we use it a lot in tournaments. I mean, if you got, look at a 6 rod tournament, that's, most people are going to have 6 hooks. We're running 6 rods, and we have 12 leaders with 12 hooks and 12 baits. So it gives us more, opportunity to catch fish. We got a different presentation out there because the top hook is usually a little bit higher running through the water. A lot of times we'll run a larger float on it than on the bottom, or don't run a float at all on the bottom. We have the XL float. Sometimes if we have big baits and we're in an area where there's big fish, we'll use an XL float sometimes on the top and a standard float on the bottom. So we've done really well with it. And so has JT. He's beaten us with it. So some of the tournaments we fish against. So
And I mean, I hate to say this, but I mean, I don't think that Liz and I would have beat you guys without some of your products. I can guarantee, and I don't know if I can show that picture of Liz and that piece of bait. I don't know if you want me to get that out or not, but I mean, without you showing me that technique, there's no way we would have beat you.
See, and is that how you caught the pelicans too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I didn't catch any pelicans. I caught an eagle.
But
I caught an eagle though.
That's
a
wild.
unique story. I didn't get it on camera, but luckily I didn't.
How'd you get that off?
Well, he didn't actually get hooked up. I was it was the day of the tournament, and y'all were sending the videos of unhooking the pelicans, and I was getting a kick out of that because Cutter and Monty were too. And they were telling me, and I didn't have any pelicans in my area where I was fishing. And I just made a move, and I was, I casted my line out about 20, 30 feet. I was dragging in about 4.5 foot of water, and I looked down to grab my planer board, and I was looking down to grab it. My line starts taking off, and it's like, oh my, I hadn't even looked up yet. I felt, oh my gosh, I already got a fish. I just threw it out, and it's pulling drag. And I look up, and the eagle's got my head dove down, grabbed my bait, and was flying out of the water with my line. A big eagle, and he's not 30 feet from the boat. Luckily, it didn't hook him, and he dropped the bait and flew off. But and I just turned my camera off. It'd been a cool video, but and I didn't have a float on that one. And he drove all the way down, I guess 4.5 feet deep, and grabbed that bait. It was on a 2-ounce inline rig and a hook and a bait. So I think it might have been I think I was running all Livingston lures that day, so which they don't float the bait up that well versus a regular top float, peg float, or one of the bite me floats. But
yeah, like I said, I had one of those popping corks. I might actually still have it somewhere. I mean, I was buying all sorts of goofy stuff like this to help get my bait up. But like I said, it got it up too high, and not only did we catch one pelican, another one came in to try to take the bait from it, and then they were both hooked up. So we had 2 on 1 hook. It was a disaster, but Liz was a champ and got them both off. And right. I said, we're done using the popping corks. We're going, you know what I mean? Because some of the fish we were catching, we noticed they were like, mid-water column. Yeah. But I wanted to get a little bit crazy and go higher just to see some cool splashing and stuff. But that's what I love about that shallow water, the splash you get when one just smokes it.
Yeah, that's I fish shallow water a lot, but even that particular area in Louisiana, and that was something new. I was watching some videos earlier of some of the fish that I lost, and I made a comment to my camera. These fish are really strange. I've never seen anything like it. But we kind of had to adapt to how those fish bit and to be able to get them on. I mean, if you looked at probably lost about 40% of the fish in 4 days that I saw that were, that looked like they had the hook, never really bent the rod, but it looked like its surface, it looked like it was fixing to be an easy hookup, and it wasn't. And sometimes they were there, they were still on it. I learned at the beginning that you just need to keep reeling. Sometimes they were swirling on it and swimming straight to the boat very fast. And I think a lot of times I miss fish because of that. But when we put the stinger on, that fixed a bunch of that. And sometimes I feel like some of those fish, I don't know, maybe weren't even grabbing the bait with the mouth. Sometimes I think they were just slapping the baits.
Yeah. So are we talking about the stinger?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
I'm gonna email myself so I can show this picture a little bit better. But I mean, this is strictly, we were gonna fish. This was actually, we were gonna fish against each other, and you actually showed me this, correct?
Yes,
That's
correct.
how that worked.
Yeah, I gave you.
And you gave me, I think you only gave me one.
I only gave you one. I had 5. I kept 4, I think, and gave you one.
All right, so I'll pull this up. So you kind of did it to yourself, but still.
All right. Did you?
So this is, yeah, no, I mean, 100%. I mean, almost all of our fish came on that. And again, kind of back to talking about, which we'll get into the lures here in a minute. I think, in my opinion, how we noticed, because we were there for 3 days, and every day the bite got a little different and worse, where we would still get a bite, but they wouldn't hook up like that and just engulf the bait. So I don't know if it was, in my thought process, as the Livingston lure maybe enticed a strike bite, but they weren't hitting it hard enough. It was just like a bite, and we could never hook up. And then let's see if I can share this picture. All right. So I don't know if that can, there we go. So if you, and you might have to zoom in after this to screenshot this, but you can see this good, right, Brian?
Yeah.
So what this is, well, we'll start up top. We've got a Livingston lure, which this was after we just got a fish in. So the way that I do them, I don't snell them. I just run a loop through the middle eye where I can kind of move it up and down. So this was going to get moved back up a few inches because I don't run them that close. But 10-aught circle hook, rip and lips, of course. And then here is where it gets, if you can kind of, I'm going to zoom in the best I can. And I don't know if you have any with you, Brian, but this is a crimped loop that goes over the 10-aught carefully. And then he showed me the rubber band trick. So this is my crazy, what all I could have to use. That is a Livingston lure treble hook on the bottom. And I snelled a 7-aught circle hook to that treble hook. And then I did that. And then Liz cut the slot, put the rubber band in there. And I'll tell you what, I absolutely hate double hook rigs. But since you've showed me this is a game changer. I wish I'd have had your hooks, your big treble hook. So this is what I had to rely on because I only had one of yours.
Right.
So I was doing some kind of crazy stuff. But I mean, this is a quick, easy way, and it works. I mean, that's a fact.
Yes.
That is 100%.
Yeah, after we figured
and like
it out.
I said, we caught most of our fish was on this back hook. It was wild.
Yeah. Yeah, so now, and I always keep them in my tackle box. I have for a year where I pre-tie them at different lengths. And when we were in Louisiana, I was quick to go to that trick because and I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not, but those fish were coming up, they were grabbing the bait or whatever they were doing, and they were surfacing. And as soon as the rod, a lot of times wouldn't move. You see the planer board move at 2 or 3 feet, you drill down on it, and they wouldn't be there. But when we put the treble hook or a stinger on there, it definitely changed the game.
Yeah.
It wasn't 100%, but it changed.
Oh yeah. I mean, I went from not catching. I mean, the end of that second day, it was rough. Like we caught a few fish, but we lost so many fish. I mean, I got videos, which I got to get rid of my phone is full of storage. So I got all this stuff on my DJI that I got it, like Liz's personal best is all on video. So once I get some free space, I'll post those videos, but there's a ton where she goes up and gets ready to reel down, and then the rod pops back up. You can see the splash, but it's no fish. But like when we went to that, it was, I don't know that we maybe missed one fish the day we fished against each other because it was just that on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's a loop that's crimped. And I don't know if you can see it very good.
So what I do is I'll take the hook that I'm going to use and the size of your the barb, and I'm using 80-pound Draggin Master line, so I'll loop it and with a crimp, and I'll change that size. So I'm going to turn it around backwards, so the crease where the crimp is going to go over the barb, because you don't that line, and I'll make it where it's tight but not too tight, and then I'll crimp it. And then I've got a tackle box full of 2-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch, different size treble hooks, all the way up to the Draggin Master, the large treble hook. And then when we were in Louisiana, I had 5 of our big treble hooks, and I gave you one. I kept 4, but that's what we needed there, because they were good sized fish. Because I used one of the Livingston lure treble hooks, which I like because they're a good strong hook. But I got a 30-pounder in the boat, and he almost straightened it out. So I was a little weary of that, especially if it was at a tournament. So a bigger, stronger hook on those type of fish was, because they're mean fish in Louisiana.
I hate this. Just from the red, I mean, years ago when we fished the Red River down there, they were mean, don't open their mouths. I mean,
they have to compete with the alligators, sharks. Not like regular freshwater catfish. Maybe that's why they're mean. I don't know, but they're mean. You don't want to stick your hand in their mouth.
No, not at all.
I've bled a lot on the trip.
Let's talk about the Livingston lure. We always talk about, and I kind of feel bad. I said that a while back. I didn't really push Livingston like I should have. They've been a sponsor now for, well, this will be their 2nd year. They sponsored you back with Cat Masters, and I remember when you gave me a bunch of those lures to try. I've been using them for 3 years solid. I know you have. What's your thoughts on them, and maybe kind of go into the detail on that?
Well, I guess it's been 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whenever they were sponsoring Cat Masters. I had a bunch of them, and I used them. I tried them, and I liked them, and I saw a difference, of fishing. And then there was some days, some days are just bad days, catch fish. But I guess it's been about 4 months ago, 5 months ago. I have a video I made when I'm out fishing. But I was looking in my garage, and I had about 30 of a particular one I've never used before. Anyway, I took it out of the package, and I was messing with it. And way to check the sound is put your finger to it, because it's activated to conduct by water, and it was really loud. I hadn't heard this particular EBT was different than the ones I was used to using. So I was used to using the normal style, like what we use, like Demon Dragon, that style of shape. Well, this is more a little bit different. Anyway, then the noise was a lot louder. It's a different EBT. So I tied up some, I think 3 on a rig, and I fished a tournament with my wife and daughter on a lake I'd never been to. And I saw, well, we got 2nd place in the tournament. And, I had 3 rigs out of, I think we were running 8. And all of our fish came off of that one right there. Every fish. And so I tried it. Me and Monty went to Oklahoma fishing tournament, and on pre-fishing day, I was running all double hook rigs, and one of my leaders had one of those on it, and they were all on the bottom. And this is where I really convinced myself this is a game changer. It is all my Livingston lures were on the bottom leader, and I was catching all my fish on my side of the boat, not Monty's, because Monty didn't have one, and I was catching them on the lower leader. So after, I don't know, 3 or 4 fish, I switched it. I took the Livingston lure off, put it on the top leader, and all the rest of my fish come off the top leader. So it wasn't what the fish were doing, it was they were going after Livingston lures. So I used it in some recreational videos I made. And I didn't say anything in the videos, not until kind of just recently. And then I fished another tournament championship, a big country, a 2-day championship. And I think I caught 150 pounds on the first day. I was fishing solo, all on Livingston lure, and I wasn't running 100%. But to me, it's definitely made a difference. I don't know if it's something that'll be useful year round, but I know in the fall, it was a big, big difference.
Well, that's where it started with me about 2 years ago. Well, actually, and then I was using it a lot by myself. Um, and then last summer, I was with a buddy in Pool 19. It was in May, and we only had one, and it was in the middle. And every fish we caught was on the same. I mean, just one after the other. I mean, it was wild. The second it hit, down. And when you do that so many times in so many different scenarios, Channel Cat in Pool 19 in Iowa, Louisiana, Texas, it starts to put a pattern together. And like I said, you need every bit you can when you're out there fishing.
Absolutely. And I like trying different things, and it was definitely Monty and I were fishing together. I get the lake was Ugala, and he called me on Monday. We finished the tournament on Saturday, and he ordered some on Monday morning to put in his boat. But he saw the difference. Is it something that's going to happen every tournament, every time you go out fishing? I think it's like anything. There's some days that I think the days that I used it last fall, they were actually going after the Livingston lure. I know they were. I try different things when I'm testing Draggin. I'll do every other pole, so it's not looking like I'm targeting something. So if I'm running a ledge, it's not happening on the right hand side or the left hand side. So I'll do every other one, how far you're away from the boat. Anyway, it made a difference. I still use them.
Yeah.
I used them. I went fishing Saturday, went for the front hit, and it made a difference that day. And I only used one out of 6 rods. Didn't catch very many fish, but
Yeah, I was kind of shocked, when I was catching with Channel Cat. I mean, it's a pretty big lure, and it's just something that adds. You got a decent piece of bait, a lure like that, and these Channel Cats are just smoking it. Actually, I got a video, and even actually Rhett caught a sturgeon on a Livingston product. So I think again, it's just and then again being confident in what you're using. But
sure.
I know we made a post, and I think I have them. I've been selling them with Twisted Cat, but I really didn't have them for sale last year. Just kept them in the box, and then now I got them out, and I don't know that we maybe got 30 left out of probably 300. And then I'm selling some online, which just to kind of move them. And then he does Eric, which I'm going to have on. Hopefully, the three of us, me, you, and Eric, owner of Livingston, we'll do a podcast. He's shooting for like early March, and we'll kind of dive into that because I got to see the graphics. They are coming out with catfish specific ones that won't have the hooks, so you don't have to cut the hooks off, which will be nice. But that's about the only bad thing about them right now is cutting the hooks off. But so I'm excited to see those come out. But you can. Oh my! If you can put TCO 15 and get 15% off Livingston online. TCO 15 to get 15% off. So Wally said you wouldn't need those if you had those chunky rigs. Heard they catch more fish than the other. The chunky rig is it's got a lot of bells and whistles on it. I mean, literally a lot of bells and whistles. I've not used a chunky rig. I've seen some crazy rigs as a tournament director for 11 years. I get to watch everybody that comes, even you've done it too. Everybody that comes to the weighing line, I get to look at they might not think I'm looking, but I'm looking. And I've seen some crazy stuff. I've seen some very simple stuff do very well. I've used a lot of simple stuff, but this lure makes some noise. I think it makes a difference. And I don't know. Again, if you're confident in what you're using, whether it's a different dragging rig, a different planer board, lures, line, weights, hooks, rods. I mean, that's everything matters when that big fish bites. Everything's got to go right.
Yep.
You got any kind of other little setups you got with you? You got some of your products?
I don't. All I have is probably I have a 2-ounce rig here, but I don't have anything else
Well,
in here.
show the 2-ounce rig at least.
Like still in a package. We're running a sale on these because we have hundreds of busted packages. Hopefully to be done with soon, but we'll still have some at
So
Cat.
I got 3-ounce here. This is 2 3-ounce.
Yep. I have something new that we're coming out with this year. We've had a lot of people ask. We're going to go ahead and do the 4-ounce weight, and that will be the largest we do, and I can explain why. But there's a 2-ounce, 32 inches long. But a lot
So
of
the
people
2
ask
ounces are black.
black. The 4-ounce will be gray. That's the, and we can do, 8-ounce, 10-ounce. We're just not going to. When you start getting into that size, the diameter gets so much bigger, the flexibility changes. It kind of defeats the purpose of what we designed this for. So 4-ounce is still good. We could probably go to a 5-ounce and it still has the same action. But I think we're going to stop at the 4.
When will those be ready?
Hopefully we'll have it ready to go midsummer, into summer. Just takes a bit to get everything right.
Here's one of my. I got a mess of stuff here. Now this is kind of a chunky, sort of a chunky rig here.
Is there a hook
hook
on the Livingston still?
Yeah, you know what? I just got kind of lazy and I wanted to leave some of this the sparkly stuff.
Yeah.
Well, this the chunky rig, Wally. How about that? So hook, Livingston, just left little sparkly stuff on it. And then I think I just had one of those. So I use that. And again, I mean, this is just the rig off the back. And then I don't have the rig, but then I'll put a rig on this front too. But the other thing you got to think of, this stuff. I mean, you take a rig like this, it's a pretty expensive rig.
It is very expensive.
I mean, and it's time consuming. You've got the weight, the line, the Livingston lure, 2 hooks. I mean, if you're using some quality stuff, what do you got? I mean, $25 in a rig.
$25 is not anything. I ran some in one of the tournaments. I was doing well with them too. Is 2 Livingston lures, and then go over a tree and lose it. It's tough.
Here's my popping cork, guys. Now this is for reds. But tell me, I'm like, so I mean, I was getting crazy. Like every once in a while I'd go up there and kind of jerk the rod a little bit just to get a little bit of, and all that did is brought them dang pelicans in. I mean, you would see how many pelicans we had on us for a while.
I had about 10 the day before, and I learned my lesson. Luckily, I didn't hook any, but I figured out what they were trying to do, and I didn't want to float any baits for them. Because that's all shallow water. I mean, you can't. I don't know if I imagine you're looking at a lake that you can't see the other end of the shore, and it's the deepest is 6.5 feet.
Yeah,
I love it. Can't wait to go back.
I know Chiller Bait Tank said he said I'm emailed Livingston Lures in the early 2000s about a catfish specific lure. Glad to see they're finally catching on. Yeah, Brian hooked up with them, I think, at iCast, and then Brian introduced me to Eric 2 years ago at iCast, and man, they've been a good sponsor. And like I said, I always like to scratch the sponsors' backs. I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna push your product, and I believe in it. I've used it, and I'll sell it for you too. And like I said, I was nervous because I bought a ton of them, and they've been selling like crazy. So I've got a good price on them right now, but don't buy any until tomorrow because I got to change I'm out of 3 of them. So people are going to try to get on and buy them, and I'm going to have to redo all my stuff. But
And
Yeah.
I'm not sponsored by them. Cat Master was several years ago. I'm not sponsored by them, and I kept this quiet for a little while. um, but I still like sharing things, something I learned and something other anglers that have been in my boat learned real quick. So, whether I wanted to share it or not, it was getting shared. I saw some posts, read some posts about Livingston lure and why aren't people being secret about this? I just, it's kind of funny. And not even from around here, it kind of spread, and it's okay. But I thought it was something that it was for me. It was just something else to have in the tackle box that I know works. Um,
Yeah.
when you got to try something different, it's a good tool.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, and that's that you'll see these out, which this is one of my favorite ones. I've because I'm not a bass guy or crappie guy, so I've had to learn a lot on colors. What do colors? Is black supposedly kind of better for deeper water compared to clear and shiny and all that stuff? Do you pay much attention to that on the color of your lure depth wise?
On mine, when I first started using these, I took them all out of the package and painted them black, and that immediately started working for me. And something unique when I painted these black is I could tell the fish were biting these because the teeth scratches in them.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
and then one day I didn't
yeah.
have the black ones with me, and I didn't have the
I mean,
black
it's
ones with me, and it didn't make a difference. Yeah, but something I kind of give you something that's been these are the what are these called? Tell me. Uh,
the Walking Boss 2.
this is Walking Boss. This is not the Junior. So these are my favorite right here. But these are so loud, and most people aren't going to believe me. But I had like 6 of these pre-tied in a Dynasty 2.0 live well. I have like 10 rods in there with sleeves over them. And this lure, I guess it holds a little bit of moisture, but with my lid shut, you could hear these echoing that loud. And they were out in my garage for days. I could walk by my boat and think, "What's that noise?" And it's Livingston lure still chirping in the boat,
And
which
you can
it's not.
see it, yeah, and you can, I mean, yeah, like I
They
said,
run the
it's
battery down, but it's loud. This one's loud. So there's 2 different ones. So if you get the clear one, it has a different sound than this one. They're the same shape, I believe. Oh, they're all a little bit different size. No, they're same. Let me show that. They're the
yeah, there's
same,
a
but they have
couple.
different sounds.
Yeah, they
Like
got a
this.
lot of different sounds. I've been playing with a lot of different sounds. Like I said, I go back to, is it the sound? Is it just a sound period that it's giving off, or is it just you know, this shad sound or this mullet sound or this, what is that, and is that making a difference? So I think that that's something that we'll still learn. But I'll tell you what, I have. I think they're crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, imagine when it's in the water, what that sounds like.
Yeah. I don't know if can people actually hear that, but
Yeah, I can hear it.
that sound there to me has and maybe it's just my imagination. You hear how the catfish grind their fins and make that noise that we hear. That to me, it has a similar sound to that. I don't know, maybe that's some kind of calling mechanism catfish have, but that one's a lot louder than some of the others. Some of the others sound like crickets to me. But anyway, it's just something interesting.
Yeah, Joe. Yeah, what species is Livingston lure designed for? Really, just
Any.
I mean anything. I mean, there's a lot of offshore species that they're targeting. They've got some that are like. Have you seen the Magnum Pros?
I've
They're
seen that.
giant. They're like massive.
And I don't know. Seen the episode where they actually use them for the crab pots on Deadliest Catch. So that
Yeah,
same sound mechanism, EBT technology, are being used on Deadliest Catch in the crab pots. They're seeing I read an article about it where it was saying a higher percentage of snow crab coming in the traps with that EBT technology. I've watched some videos of ice fishermen. They have they use the live scope deal where it's actual camera down in the clear water up north, like in Minnesota, and they're using it. They actually have Livingston Lures has one that you can. It's a big component that you stick down in the water to draw fish in there. And these anglers, ice fishing anglers, are showing these fish coming to it with the camera, um, catching more fish with that technology. I think fish have a curiosity, and if it's something different, sometimes they're going to come check it out.
And I think that curiosity gets them in there. And
Oh,
if you go back, I posted an 8-minute video of Liz and I down in Louisiana. And you always got to watch stuff real close. I had another Livingston product on when she caught that 50. And you got to look closely, but there's another product on there, and it's orange. And you know what I'm talking about? The bullet?
I
The
don't.
inline
Yeah.
bullet? Oh.
Huh? Oh, yes.
So, like I said, I've been trying a lot of different things, but and maybe that helped us catch the reds like we were catching the reds. We just had a ridiculous time there with reds. It was insane. But they've been a great sponsor, and like I said, I've been using them, beating them up. I mean, this rig it's tore up bad.
So I don't know if you noticed it when going back to Louisiana. When I first got to Louisiana, I was in a body of water up from you, and I started graphing, and it was it's 4.5, 5 foot of water as far as you could see. And there's I've never been there before, so I'm looking for some structure. There's no structure, zero. The only structure are crab pots, unless you go to the shoreline, right? So I'm graphing along, looking at my side imaging, and I see some fish that look like they're 6 to 8 inches long. That's all I see, and not a whole lot of those. I did that for about 45 minutes, and I said, the heck with it. I'm just going to start dragging. And I start dragging, and about not even 10 minutes into my first fish weighed 50 pounds. And I'm looking at my side imaging, nothing's there. And I continue to do that, and it's, I catch a 30, a 20, another 40, and never over 5 pounds. So I wondered sometimes if they're coming, I'd run my side imaging out to 120 feet, and I usually don't get past that. Usually I'll keep it at 90, and I'm not seeing anything. We're looking at a really clean bottom, and I didn't see a whole lot of fish in the first day, but I caught a lot of fish. So I wondered if they were coming from further distance away and getting behind the spread because of that.
Especially in shallow water too. I mean, if the boat scares them away, like I said, one thing I've noticed in some scenarios where maybe the boat's scaring them if it's rough water. Because the day that we were all fishing, we were dead middle of that lake in some rough water, raining, and it was a lot of the outside boards. Even I think her personal best, that night came on a outside board. The long. I mean, I was running crazy long line and then clipping the board, and then I always run a little goofy. We talked about that, how I kind of run like a side angle where it's kind of my boat little axle different, especially if the wind's blowing. I'll use the paddles to slow the boat down, and maybe the trolling motor flip backwards to kind of shoot it the other way a little bit. But I don't know, any little adjustment could help change and catch those fish. Even on the Red River, there's times where we were doing circles and slow the boat down. And right when you start making that circle and that inside board slow down, smoked it.
Yep.
That's what Wally said. Definitely getting spooked by the boat. We've seen the wake shooting off away from the boat when we were there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. So we've talked about lures, gone into that a little bit. A new topic, not new, catfish. Catfish is kind of late to the game, live scope. I met the Garmin rep for Sea Arc down in Texas. He brought me a transducer for me to try, and he was talking in the crappie world. 4 or 5 years ago, he'd go to a big tournament and they had 40% of the boats had live scope. And by the next year, it was 80 to 100%. And I told him, I said, I feel like we're close to that 80% right now from last year, even. I mean, we have blown up. I've got it on the front and back of my boat. A lot of people got two, but I don't think a lot of people have put the time in. What do you think of live scope? Have you used it? What's your thoughts of it? Kind of going on live scope a little bit.
So, it's kind of a unique subject. If you follow the past with crappie and how crappie got into live scope, and then I remember when bass was starting to dabble in it a little bit, and the it's not going to work for bass, and look at it now. And then I remember several years ago, um, comments and just traveling around the country and talking about, well, live scope doesn't work on catfish, and I became, I was listening to what everybody else was telling me. It's not going to work on catfish. So I never paid much attention to it. I have live scope. I've had live scope sitting on a shelf in my garage for 2 years, 3 years. It is now on my boat. I'm trying to dabble with a little bit, learn, but it's something you have to, I think I was at Bassmaster Classic last year. It was last year. And I started talking to some of the pros we had in the booth, and mostly crappie pros and bass pros, and talking about the catfish. And they laughed. They said, when we're out there, we see the catfish, we see the big blue cats. It's not something they're targeting, but see, definitely it's something that if you wanted to, you could target them just like we're doing with the crappie and bass. There is an angler doing it here in Texas, and I made a post last year, I think early last year, what people's thoughts on it were, and most of the comments were, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I've tried. It doesn't work. I promise you it works. This angler's at Twisted Cat at Ray Hubbard, and he did very well. But it works. But it's not something I'm going to jump into. It's something I may play with a little bit. I've already started playing with it a little bit. I know guys here. There's several tournament anglers in Texas that have gone with him to experience it. Very unique. But all the guys I've talked to, 4 different anglers that have gone with this live scope, and I don't want to say his name. I don't have anything against him. I just don't want to put his name out there right now.
Well,
But
somebody already did.
most of you, oh, they already are, have gone fishing with him, and they say it's pretty unique. It's cool, but it's different when you go get on your boat. He has so much experience and so much control of his boat and how he does it. I want to go experience it with him just to see, even though somebody tell experience that and learn what he's doing. But I don't think it's something that anybody. I don't think, Alex, you're gonna be dominating in the live scope catfishing world tomorrow, or maybe not even next year, unless you do it every day. Anybody, I think it takes a lot of time. So it's gonna be interesting to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, I think that he was telling somebody that it took him 1,000 hours before he really caught his first fish. It's catfish. And yeah, I mean, again, will it, he didn't win the tournament, but he got second. You know what I mean? So what's the future? I mean, do you foresee that being, I mean, look what it's done to the bass world, look what it's done to the crappie world. Do you see that being something that's going to have to be monitored the next couple of years?
I think it will, and this is my opinion. I don't have anything against live scope, and a lot of people think I do. I don't. But I think majority of the anglers, and this is what you saw in crappie, this is what you saw seeing bass right now. But majority of the anglers that are fishing, I see a lot of comments. Well, if you got, it's a new technology, you just got to put your time in. Most of those people aren't tournament anglers. So let's say you got 2,000 tournament anglers across the country, but you only have 5 people that are really good at live scope that can target catfishing. And like you say, it takes you 1,000 hours just to kind of get your foot in the door to learn and compete. Even in the bass world, the pros that are really good at live scope, there's kids out there that are a lot better. You can see it. I mean, they're learning so much. There's so many different techniques with the live scope. So my problem with it, and I say I have a problem with it. What I think it'll hurt was if you have a large tournament and you have 3 or 4 live scopers like this individual, or you see some other guys come over from bass or crappie because you got a tournament that's going to pay $50,000, and those guys jump the fence and start taking the money. I think what will happen is people will start dropping out, and that's what happened in the crappie world.
Yeah.
You know, there's certain anglers out there that just dominated every tournament, and people lost interest. I think that could happen really easy in the catfish world, and I don't want it to happen. Um, some of the rules got changed in one of the tournaments locally here because of it, and it should have been that way. In my opinion, it should have already been like that, and that's the flathead rule. Uh, so that'll help. That kind of makes it more of an even balance. But I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's something I got to monitor. I mean, it's it'll be interesting to see the future and how things change and evolve, and especially as technology gets better. I mean, new transducers, different live scope. I mean, Humminbird came out with Mega 2. I know that Garmin's going to be right behind them. I mean, just like we talked, I mean, Garmin's already got stuff ready to come out.
Yeah.
They're waiting. Mega's going to come out. Now Garmin's, I mean, what is the next step? I mean, I've heard people talk about, being able to select a certain fish, on live scope and it kind of follow that fish. I mean, there's some crazy technology, but I don't know. I think in our sport, it's going to have to be almost like a complete ban of, if you haven't, you're going to have to maybe, for a crappie invitational for Sea Arc, we give people the choice, you to fish live scope or non-live division. So if they're on the non-live scope division, we just unplug from their black box, put a certain balloon and tape and zip tie, and then they can't use that live scope. And I don't know if we'll have to go to something like that. I don't know. I mean, it's something that I think we're going to see it probably pretty quickly go to.
I think so. I mean, you got one of the biggest pro bass divisions outlawed it completely. The other ones are just kind of regulating it right now. MLF is regulating a little bit, and Bass Masters is just limited it to one, and how many inches of screen you can have. So you're already seeing that it's already changing in that industry because of it. I mean, we go to a Bass Masters Classic is going to be in Fort Worth this year. We'll be there. We were there last year in Oklahoma City. But to go to that, and it's huge. You've been to one. The show.
Oh yeah,
it's enormous. Thousands and thousands of people, thousands of product, and the whole subject at the show is forward facing sonar. I mean, it is, and it's not all positive either. And even last year at the show, they had the goggles. You don't even have to look down at the screen. They already have the goggles you can put on your head. And watch forward facing sonar.
I've tried the glasses on with hammerhead sonar. I mean, you put a pair of reading glasses on where you can still see, but then you can see your live scope like a massive TV. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah. It's amazing stuff, but it's something unique that's changing. I don't think it's going to happen that 2025, but I think in the next couple of years you'll probably see more. I mean, you may see some guys. I think we're going to see the crappie guys that are really good at it start dabbling in some of the bigger tournaments and catfishing. If I were really good at live scoping, catching crappie and bass in some of these tournaments that we're having now in catfishing, I'd probably jump the fence.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah. I think Bama Blues first place. I paid out over $13,000.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But do you think that's something that they can adapt to the river yet? A big 3-fish limit. You see some crazy limits. I mean,
I think so.
But I think we're going to find out.
I think a lot of people think that they can't do it in the river because the visibility. We're not talking about in heavy current. Talking about outside the current, behind docks, behind dikes and deep water holes where there's a lot of timber. But we know there's a lot of big fish in that timber, stand up timber, lay down timber. Yeah, when you have a 2-mile-an-hour current, I don't think it's something you could use. But there's places on the river, a lot of places on the river where I think you can use live scope. And it's going to happen. It's already
So
happened.
what do you think would be the go to? Is to outlaw it, outlaw one, only have one? What's your thoughts? Because that becomes, I mean, as a tournament director, you understand there's a lot of moving parts running a tournament.
Yeah.
Especially if you have to get to that where you have to start. I mean, they either got to not have it on their boat. I mean, there's a lot to outlawing it.
There is. I mean, I think Catfish is going to look at it a little bit different than what Pro Bass did. Pro Bass is looking at his viewership. Viewership is dropping off, and they're blaming it on forward-facing sonar. Some of the pros that aren't as dominant in it, been dominant in the sport, are starting to retire a little bit early, because and they're losing some of that, some of the goats in the industry because they can't compete with some of the younger generation that are forward-facing sonar, so they're losing that viewership. So that's why you're seeing some of the changes in the rule. I think for catfishing, where it'll hurt us is, let's say you have a tournament trail that's bringing in 50 to 100 boats every year at a specific location, and then you get a couple guys that get dominant on live scope. And I mean dominant, I'm not knocking. It's what happened in Central Texas Catfish Trail, where a particular angler fished his first season and won about $50,000 in the trail and never been to some of these lakes before. And he's a great angler. There's no doubt about it. And I heard he's a really great guy. And I don't have anything against it. But what I think will happen is then you only have 25 teams show up next year. Because everybody wants first. Everybody's going for first place when they show up to the tournament, and they can't compete with that kind of technology and the experience he has, that he's learned those 2,000 hours on it. And let's face it, I can't, the amount of time I got to go pre-fish a tournament. Let's say I get to fish 12 tournaments this year, and I get to pre-fish 2 days. Basically, I have to just stop fishing for the year and just go learn live scope. And a lot of guys say, well, just learn how to use it. It's not that easy. I mean,
It's
the
not.
guys, there's a lot of hours, there's a lot of technology. It's not just the live scope, it's your gear. I'm not gonna explain all the things that I've learned from other things that's fished with him, but there's a lot of little things that you have to do. You're changing your boat up completely, what you're using, how you're using it. There's a lot of stuff to learn. You can't do that tomorrow. So I think what will happen is it'll affect turnout, registration, and then and I think about it more as I used to be a tournament director, and I would have to make a decision then, and I would probably have to outlaw it. If we go from 100 boats to 20 boats, and this is what happened in the crappie world. I've talked to some of the crappie pros that got out of tournament fishing, is they could, even though they were live scopers, they couldn't compete with some of the live scopers out there. And those guys were just winning one tournament after another. So the crappie tournament world took a significant hit over it. So I think catfishing will too. Now, will it grow big enough where in the future where you could have two, but I think that's a long way down the road. The
Long way
younger
down the road.
generation, yeah, younger generation, kids in the high school right now that are learning it, when they get up there, that may be a whole different tournament trail, maybe. I don't know. And I've watched some stuff on the biologists, Texas Parks and Wildlife. Would they ever outlaw it? I don't think that's ever going to happen.
No.
They're not seeing a significant change in the bass fishery anyway for any reason to outlaw it.
Yeah. I mean, and look at, unfortunately it hit the crappie world first and it destroyed it. I mean, it's, I used to follow ACT and they had awesome events. And then, you had a few of the same guys and it was so new to them, new technology. They didn't know what to do. And I mean, if you see a crappie tournament we had 50 boats in our Sea Arc Invitational, and I was pumped.
Yeah.
The weekend after us, we left Lake of the Ozarks, and a major trail came in and had 18.
Yes. And they used to have 100, 120, 150. Yeah. I know. I used to watch them too. I used to follow them because we used at Cat Masters. That was a great trail to watch how they did things, organized things, how they did their live feed, and they were huge. They're not anymore.
No, it's like I said, and now they're trying to do 2 divisions again, but it's just, crappie's a different world too. You have how they used to all long line and drag. There's a lot of different ways to fish also, but I see. I'm putting this out there, February 10th, 2025, that there's a solid chance I'm going to have to do something before next season, in my opinion.
On live scope?
Live scope. That's my thought.
It's possible.
I mean, I'm watching it very closely. And again, like like we talked backstage, I think if I was a crappie angler and I was good, why are you not coming to some of my tournaments? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I can
did
see
it still happen this year? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to happen.
I just want to see if it'll happen on the river, how quickly it will happen on the river. It does. But back to it, it's cheap enough now where $1,000, $1,200, you got the rig, you throw it on a pole and your trolling motor, and you're good to go. But you got to put the time in. I mean, you got to put a lot of time in.
Yeah,
and that's where people are going to struggle putting the time in, because sometimes it's like, oh, this sucks. And it's a lot of work. And I'm not catching any fish.
Yeah, and then I guess all you have to have is go down to the local bait shop and just buy some perch about that long.
Yeah.
So bait's fairly easy because that's kind of easy to get. Not big perch, little perch. That's the key. For some of the comments talking about in the past on post, well, I stuck a big old skipjack in front of one, and he had to be 100 pounds. He wasn't no part of it. Live scopers aren't using cut bait. Not to say it won't work. They're not using cut bait. And I was really amazed to see the size of live bait they're using. Small.
Yeah. But if you're getting that bait out in front of that fish, right in front of them, and then entices a strike bite, game on. I mean, but for bait, it changed my game for bait. I mean, I've learned where bait is, why, like it's questioned a lot of things. I don't throw in spots I used to throw 100 times in, because now I know, why was I throwing here for years when they're always right here in this scenario? And you learn that with live scope, and you don't have to be good to catch bait on live scope. That's pretty simple.
Yeah. I'm going to say this, I pictured something as a live scope, these guys catching catfish on live scope. And a lot of people are probably doubting the fact that some of these anglers have so much experience in what they're seeing. This is something I was told that experienced this and kind of give you an idea. So if let's say you come up to a tree and you're looking around, there's a lot of people, anglers, thinking there's this big 60-pound fish swimming around the tree. This is so complicated that they're scoping all the way around the tree, just looking for just a part of its lips sticking out of a tree. That's how good they are. Recognizing the lip sticking out of a tree. So what you're seeing in the bass guys, you're seeing fish swimming around. This is totally different. So I'll just leave it at that. That's how tough it is. That's how good you have to be at live scope to find these fish and different patterns, I won't say anything else. I'm gonna leave it there. But it kind of gives you an idea. It's tough. It's not easy. When I heard that, I was like, I'm never gonna get to that point.
Well, and that's the thing. And I mean, I consider Twisted Cat a pretty professional series. A lot of people are very, they want to come fish hard and win, but it's also they're coming to have fun, hang out, have some drinks, get to meet their buddies they don't get to meet. So, I mean, like I said, I got to look into that, because I know Brian might not, or John Williams or Wally Meyer might not have the time to put in 1,000 hours to get really, really good at it. But if you got them 1 or 2 teams that do, it'll destroy it. Yep. I mean, you wouldn't have either. Why would you come if you don't even have a chance?
Whoa.
And it's completely different than when you talk about, every once in a while I hear people say, well, I don't have a week to pre-fish and blah, blah, blah. Most of the people, in my opinion, that pre-fish for a week get smoked. I mean, I go to tournaments maybe on a Thursday, Friday. I mean, that's kind of excuses, but this is different than that pre-fishing deal.
It's way different. I've
I
seen it.
want to go. I want to go beat Ryan Casey in his home water. I want to go beat Mike Mitchell. I want to go beat those guys. I don't care if they're a guide or not. They're human. They get beat. And they get
Yes.
beat bad a lot.
Yeah.
You know.
But there's, that technology with live scope and the individuals that are really good at it. It's going to be tough to beat. I've, you know, I'm, and I feel like, these individuals that are doing it are really good at it. It's unfortunate that the future of what they've learned might get scrapped. So I take advantage of it. And then I don't know, we've talked about we have nothing against the live scope and the technology. We want to learn it. But as far as tournaments, I think they understand that you can't. Some of the best live scopers in the world know, and even you've watched some of their podcasts, they know it's ruined crappie. They know it's hurting bass. They'll flat out say it.
Well, and not just in the tournament world. Just look at what it's done in the recreational. I mean, some of these guides they're limiting out in an hour. On
Taking
crappie trips and stuff. I mean,
yeah,
and it's been brought up in articles and podcasts on is it something that has to be outlawed? And like you said, I don't think that'll ever happen, but it's definitely something that could hurt some of the fisheries.
I think that they're looking at it a little bit harder in crappie. They just, typically in the bass industry, bass guys don't keep bass, but in the crappie side of it's a little bit different. So, like at Toledo Bend, I had a buddy went to Toledo Bend. It's about 3-4 years ago, and every guide on Toledo Bend in a pontoon boat's got forward-facing sonar, and you go out for an hour, you catch 25. Well, there's 100 of them. Now it's almost guaranteed everybody on the boat's going to catch 25, and you can't tell me that that's not affecting the quantity of fish and quality of fish in the crappie part of it. So yeah, I can see crappie and if they outlaw it for crappie, how is it going to be outlawed across the board? It's going to be interesting to see. But bass, they've already proved that it's not affecting the bass side of it, because the guys that are going out live scoping bass aren't going to keep whatever the limits are, 25 of them, and fry them up. That just doesn't happen. But the crappie, if I could go out and catch 25 crappie 30 minutes before work, I probably would every day, guaranteed. That's good. Good stuff.
And I was listening to another bass. I always follow the bass guys too, because they're kind of at the beginning of where everything starts with what I mean. They were talking about how they used to catch a lot of bass out in the middle of the lake and how they've moved over time, and talking about like even what Ryan Casey's brought up, where they learn how you're catching them and adapt and change. Do you think that that's something that some of these fish do? I mean, has crappie done anything different? They still catching them? I mean, they've been doing this for several years. Are they still as easy to catch? It was maybe Hayden Jeffries. I know he was kind of one of those that got outlawed. Wasn't he winning a bunch of tournaments in the crappie world, and they kind of kicked him out or booted him?
Nah, he's still in it.
He's still in it. Well, he was saying it's even tougher watching some of them lives. Like he's like, you got to be further out, and you got to sometimes you're spooking them. And the way he was talking it, like he was alluding to, it's tougher than it was 3 to 4 years ago.
I think it changes. I think the fish change or adapt. If you go, especially in the crappie world, where you're going in there and destroying, a habitat of crappie, especially people that were, look at Hayden Jeffries, that he's got a lot of hole buzzers that follow him around, and he still goes out and catches a limit of fish. I see him posted all the time. He still eats crappie, or he's feeding people, so he goes out and catches guiding, and people are following him around. So yeah, they're destroying, I think, habitats of crappie in certain areas. So they have to figure out another way or another area to catch crappie. I know a crappie guide here several years ago. He would go on. I don't know, maybe a lot of them do this. He just takes a few out of certain areas and he jumps around. He don't take his full 25 limit with his clients in one spot. He jumps around, he leaves it, saves it. I don't know what a reason. They may, a lot of them do that, but I don't know. I can see him changing. I
Yeah,
know
that'll be like I
bass,
said.
they learned a lot of stuff on bass with live scope. That's why they outlawed having forward facing sonar on their transom pointing out. A lot of the bass they were finding, this is how they found them, was they would be on a plane across the lake and they're out in the middle of nowhere and there's bass out there suspended, big bass out there suspended in the middle of the lake. You know, we always fished offshore humps and ledges and stuff like that for bass, but now they're out there suspended out in the middle of, and there's nothing out there, and they're you know they're targeting bass in places they've never targeted them before, and that's not year round, but so it's changed the game a lot. But they can no longer, I think, even Bass Masters, that's they took, you can't have forward facing sonar transducers on your transom anymore because of that.
Yeah, is it the NPFL that outlawed it completely?
Completely.
So you really have the NPFL, you have Major League Fishing, and then Bass Masters.
Yeah.
And they've all kind of doing a little bit different, each of them.
Yeah. And you're seeing, I don't know, last year there was one that started up, and I don't know if that's it's supposedly growing faster. And
NPFL.
yeah, that's growing faster because they did outlaw it. Um, so we'll see what happens. But I think what'll happen if it does grow and get to the the size of Bassmaster just drop it, get rid of it completely. I think that's what'll happen. Um, some of the forward facing sonar guys, they don't agree with it. They don't see, and I know some of the really good forward facing sonar. It's not every tournament. I hope that one day what they do is they split it, like 50% of the tournaments you can and 50% you can't, and then that makes it a true even playing field for all the anglers throughout the season. I think those are 9 tournaments. If they had 10,
Yeah, I
5 you
think.
can, 5 you can't.
Yeah, I think that G-Man was talking about that. Maybe me and you talked about that. How if they had 10, they'd pick just a random 5 that you could, and random 5 that you couldn't.
Yeah.
But again, and I'll have to look at the NPFL. I know they outlawed it, but I wonder if you can still have it on your boat like that week of the tournament, or you have to have it completely off your boat.
I think you have it. One of them, you had to have it off by Tuesday. So the tournaments start on a week before. And I don't know if that's the new season coming into 2025. It may be zero tolerance. One of them, I don't know if it's in it. There's no pre-fishing.
Oh, wow.
So you can't pre-fish, and damn sure can't pre-fish with live scope because there's no pre-fishing. Now there is sometimes you can be on the water. I don't know. I can't remember all the rules. It was pretty significant. A lot of stuff that catfishermen want to do. There's no pre-fishing. Nobody can get on the water starting at a certain date leading up to the tournament. No forward-facing sonar. No talking to any anglers leading up to. It's pretty strict.
Yeah. Here's another good thing to think about, and I got some buddies that actually are guides. It's changed the spoonbill game drastically.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that many people are dragging or pulling the dipsy divers like they are, because they are just knocking them.
Yeah.
Scope.
Yeah, I watched them and just looking at the screen, and yeah, it's changing all the species.
Yeah, that's interesting. Ben Goebel said Texas just did a study on crappie fishing with live scope. They said that you would have to kill 80% of 10-inch fish to hurt the population. So interesting.
Yes, I didn't get to watch that, but I saw the post.
Yeah, Ben, if you can, maybe send me that where you found that at. I'd like to check that out. But yeah, there's a lot to get in. I mean, it's a new technology. Side scan was a new technology years ago. But again, we talk about bass, where bass is at, and how you could do the 6 and if there's 10 tournaments, let's say 5 live scope, 5 non. In my opinion, catfishing is. I don't know that in my lifetime you'll see enough anglers that are good at live scope where you can do 5 twisted cat live, 5 twisted cat non-live. I think it's just a different world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, but I can see. To me, possibly taking a guy like William and some other guys that are going to pop up, I think, in the next year or so, and actually do some 1v1 type stuff with live cameras on. That'd be very unique to have a competition where live scuppers against live scuppers, if it's just one or two or three boats, to watch it. I'd love to get on a boat and be a cameraman and actually see a tournament against these guys doing it, because it's a unique technique what they've learned, and watch them explain it. And actually right now it's kind of top secret unless you get on their boats, and they're apparently he's more than willing to share.
Yeah.
It's unique. I think you could actually see some of that um, in the future. That'd be cool. But for having 25 boat tournaments, I don't ever see that happening.
Yeah. No, yeah. And like I said, it's something that I've, the last even couple weeks, I know that we've been talking about Texas, and, I hate to bring his name up, but, he got second place. And granted, he got second place. We had 46 or whatever, how many boats, but it wasn't like it was a bunch of slouches. I mean, everybody there had a chance to win, good anglers that have been fishing a long time. And
I don't think he'd ever been there either.
Yeah. And the other crazy thing is he had water in his gas.
He couldn't go anywhere.
He couldn't go anywhere. So he stayed close to the ramp. So, it's those type of things. And like I said, and this is good, Tom said stream a feed directly. I can do that right now with the GPS units. I can literally HDMI out to my laptop and show. And maybe I don't know that I want to do that yet, but gosh, I mean, at some point I'd like to do some more. I mean, definitely like the 1v1 you and get you smoke you one more time just so you don't have to hear it anymore. But
right.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Like I said, he's a great guy. He had his family, his wife and daughter with him, and like I said, but we'll see how the rest of this year goes, if it'll, what will happen, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, without thinking live scope, I guess you've been fishing tournaments, you've been running tournaments. Where in your mind, this is my 11th year, and I'm as hardcore an angler as I am as a director. Where do you think catfishing tournament wise has came from since you got into now? I mean, you think there's more anglers getting in the sport? You think the competition's getting better, worse? What's your thoughts?
There's a lot of different things. When we decided to do Cat Masters, and you got to maybe look at it a little bit different. From our area, the reason we did it was because of other reasons. A lot of different reasons was I enjoyed the sport, and I didn't think it was, I don't know, respected as one of the reasons as much here. I came from bass and, a quality tournament back in the day. And then I fished some tournaments here that were, I don't say not quality, but it wasn't treated, you paid big entry fee. Back then it was $150. And, we just wanted to make some changes. And for even our small tournament trails here in Texas, Big Country Catfish Trail, Central Texas Catfishing Trail, we're seeing larger numbers, quality tournaments, even though they're still small tournament trails. And I'm going to say this on live. My first tournament, guys brought fish to the weigh-in and tow sacks. So things have definitely changed. You're seeing a lot different quality boats, live wells, anglers taking care of fish is a big thing that's changed over the 10 years. I was thinking about this the other day. Back when I got in it, on social media is quick to beat up people when they see something wrong. And 8, 9 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, all the way up to maybe 4 years ago, getting beat up because of how fish were dying at tournaments. And if you notice that's kind of like been, for the most part, is non-existent anymore because you see the anglers starting to
Yeah,
take
and
care of
I think that
fish.
the growth, I think the tournament world's grown enough where, obviously if people think that we're trying to kill fish or hurt fish, whether
Yeah,
it's a tournament director or a tournament angler, that's not
no,
us at all. I mean,
no.
zero. You know what I
But
mean?
you're starting, but you're starting to see as a director when the fish are coming through the line, the fish are a lot better shape than they were in a live well. An angler's live, a lot better shape.
Well, we're all getting better at explaining how to keep fish alive. That's the goal. And I mean, it takes years to do that. And I mean, prior to 10 years ago, there wasn't really much out there. Prior to 5 years ago, I mean,
Right.
Twisted Cat was a 2, maybe a 3 hour radius from my hometown while I was driving a semi. And it's just now growing. And then what you did, and you got King Cat. There's really not a lot out there. A lot of people just doing it, for fun. And it takes time to learn that fresh water is important. Oxygen can be important. How to take care of those fish, how to burp a fish. A lot of people still don't know how to burp a fish. That's why we do videos and explain. And
Yeah. So to me, what has changed is the quality of the anglers have put towards conservation has changed a lot from when I got started. I learned a lot. Um, it's a lot easier now. It's kind of like second nature to take care of fish when you're in a tournament. As an angler, you know what to do. You've learned some lessons. You've lost some fish in the past. Um, so yeah, it's changed. What I've seen in the last couple of years is unique is the smaller tournament trails have really grown in
yeah.
number. I've started fishing, competing with the local tournament just past fall that I haven't been in the last few years. And Monty taught me into going to a little local trail I'd never even heard of. I was only about 6, 8 boats show up, just show up. Well, I've never been there. It's an hour and 15-minute drive from my house. Never even heard of the lake. And show up and there's 22 boats, I think, at this tournament. And it's just a small tournament, a lot of good competition, but seeing a lot of that kind of stuff now where small trails are growing is cool to me. Um, the more competition, the better. So I've enjoyed fishing against some of the local guys that, when Cat Masters are around, they were fishing my tournaments several years ago because not all those guys travel like Goy and I do, or Monty and some of the guys do to, St. Louis or Alabama, Tennessee. So it's cool to fish against some of those guys here lately. And that's growing. You're seeing those, Central Texas Catfish Trail. I fished a couple of tournaments last year, and we're seeing, I think the first one I fished, 72 teams
Yeah.
showed up. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think not only the tournament world's growing. I think the guides. There's a ton more guides out there. You got people making a living on social media. Um, I mean, I've had several guys that I've watched from Twisted Cat. Wally Meyer now. He quit his job. He's a guide.
Right.
Ryan Casey's got 5 or 6 guides full time underneath him. That's cool to see. And again, I think one thing that I always try to do, just like the weigh-in we had in Texas. I could have had that weigh-in at a boat ramp where it'd just be some of the anglers and we throw them back. Super simple. But having that in that Bass Pro parking lot gets more eyes on it, gets more people. Sure. We had restaurants handing out chicken, people coming to see the fish, the councilmen. I mean, how many different people get an eye? And then hey, now I want to go take a fishing trip with Matt Mosley because I've seen these guys catch these giant catfish. I mean, even these 20 and 30-pound catfish, the oohs and ahs you hear in the crowd shows you like these people haven't seen this before. So when you can show that, whether it's in Alton, New Madrid, Texas, Alabama, that's the goal. Like Fort Smith, you were there. We literally put that weigh-in right downtown at the Bakery District in front of a festival that's going on, which cost a lot of money and time to make that happen. But it's what builds a sport, having Miller Fisheries come to haul the fish, doing the permits where you can fish Oklahoma and Arkansas together. Those people getting to see that. That's what's kind of helping grow that too.
Yeah, no, I think, and I've always felt like that. The tournaments, like the larger tournaments, bringing it and doing it out in public, like Bass Pro Shops and like what you did, or indoors, Mega Bucks or Cat Masters at Texoma and the casino in front of all those people. I think that helps us in the future. It has helped us. It's just hard to see it, but it's helped in fish conservation when we're looking and pressing for new regulations and laws across the country. People recognize, I know you have this, I have this, a lot of catfish anglers that travel across the country in their boats. I know with the Dynasty CR boat, when you drive across the country, you pull into a gas station, and people come out, take pictures of your boat, ask you questions about the boat. And I know that sounds simple, but they don't realize, and they'll always tell you, didn't even know there was such a thing as trophy catfishing or catfishing tournaments, and you just introduce that to that person um, at a gas station. Now he knows, now it's in his mind. So when he sees fish regulations, now to me, that to that person, when you see these logos on the side of trucks with catfish, big trophy catfish on them, where it's a guide. So I think all that helps in the future conservation of catfishing is promoting it like the tournament trails have.
I agree. As the tournaments get bigger, I mean, everything helps, but I think as the tournaments get bigger, I mean, if you look at the bottom on the lower thirds, I mean, from what Sea Arc boats have done from day one, I mean, look at some of these sponsors that never used to be in catfishing. Pro Guide Batteries, Mossy Oak Fishing, Sea Deck, Power Pole, Smooth Moves. These are companies that take catfishing seriously and are wanting to see it grow too, and that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Without sponsorships, I mean, that you ran a tournament trail, it's hard to move the line. It's tough, and that's a big deal, and that's all those things matter.
Yeah.
And help to get that. I mean, the pictures I sent you this morning, I was so mad I could barely talk on the phone, but that's in my pool. Nobody thinks, that I got blues up here in pools 20, 21 on the Mississippi River. And you've seen 4 or 5 boatloads of blue cats that are getting pulled out of here daily. And that's insane.
So, and I think they have the possibility of changing. I tell a story. This was probably 8 or 9 years ago. There was a boat on Lake Tawakoni with a picture very similar to that. And I'm talking, so you got 2 people's limit of about 50 fish, and they're all over 30 pounds in a boat on Lake Tawakoni in the state of Texas. And that picture, somebody sent it to me, and we kind of used it in the little network and started sharing it. And I think it was within a year, there was regulations on Lake Tawakoni. This particular angler, and I don't think he's a tournament angler, this is a long time ago, came from Oklahoma and caught all these fish. And he sent this picture to a family member, not on social media. And this family member sent it to somebody else. Anyway, it got to me. And I couldn't share it because they would know the trail. So I started sending it, and it got shared on some stuff that the law went to his house in Oklahoma. He didn't do anything wrong. It was perfectly legal to take all these fish. But it was something that social media did. But when I saw that picture, it looked just kind of reminded me. And this wasn't a commercial fisherman. This was just a recreational angler that come across the border, and he had a really good day of fishing and caught 50 fish over 30 pounds up to 60 pounds and kept every one of them and took them home to Oklahoma with him. And you can't do that anymore in the state of Texas.
Yeah, it's a big deal just for me to do, the Oakland, which Arkansas has a lot of it's because of their trophy fish like bass and crappie. But in Illinois, we don't have nothing. I mean, you can literally go out and catch as many catfish as you want. Zero law, and that's a problem. And I've sent it to actually a guy that lives in my hometown. Our sons are the same age, and I've been kind of pushing. And after today, he's like, "That's a lot of fish. Like that adds up." He literally said that adds up. And we're gonna hopefully in a week or two meet and talk and start that process. Because I think you got to get in with the fisheries when they start to see that being a problem. They can take it to the next level. And they're always caring about, they want to do Asian carp studies or all these other studies. I'm like, we got to do a catfish study and really hone in on. So I've got 2 guys that I've sent emails to today that I'm working on getting something started, because Illinois touches a ton of water, the Ohio River, Illinois River, Mississippi River. And you can make a law in Missouri, But when you can put it in Chester, Illinois, that it doesn't matter, and that's a problem.
Yeah, and I put in at Chester, and it's, I still have that. I actually talked to a commercial fisherman, Charles Blair, and I watched the guy. We were pre-fishing and watched him load up, and it made me sick at my stomach. I actually went up to him, and I wasn't mean, or I wanted to talk to him. You kind of, befriend him a little bit and learn and see. But I want to get. He had this tank on his boat that I swear was 1,000 gallons. It might have been bigger, and I could see the fins and the tails of these big trophy catfish in there because I just watched him take off a 40 and put it in there. At first, he didn't want to talk to us, but I thought about this guy's doing this every day, and he's just one. I heard about several of them up and down the river and how they were doing it. And those fish weren't going to, it's not like Louisiana. When you go to Louisiana, they're targeting these small catfish, and you'll see them in all these markets. And their trophy fishery down there is excellent, as far as I'm concerned. But those commercial anglers don't seem to care anything about large catfish. I was told all those fish are going to pay lakes, and where they were actually going there in Chester, there's a pond, that they're keeping them in, and then they're transported, blah blah blah. So I don't know. It's sickening to me, and I hope something's done about it. It seems like every time I come up there, the fishing gets worse, but maybe it's just my fishing partner. Maybe I don't know. It just seems
And that's the crazy thing. And I hate to even bring this up, but if you just look at like Twisted Cat's weighing results the last 5 years, it's not like it's a decline. To be honest, it's almost
things going up. Maybe bigger fish, but I don't know. Maybe the areas.
And the areas
I was fishing has definitely changed. And I think what it is that's what we saw the commercial guys for a solid year, because I fished a Cape Girardeau tournament, several tournaments in that area. And to me, I don't know, you can ask Charles Blair. To me, I think that area's it's not very good. Because I know you fished it in some older tournaments like King Cat tournament, you and Charles and some of that area, and caught a lot of big fish in that area. It's tougher to catch fish in that area.
Yeah.
And that's where we saw a lot of the commercial guys. They're gone now.
And like I said, and that's a different river down there compared to where I'm at. I mean, you got a couple certain holes that are deep, and they are I mean, I talked to Nate Moore this morning. Like, after seeing those pictures, like, I wanted to go fishing last Sunday, which I couldn't get it together to go out because I had too much going on. But after seeing that, like, I don't even want to go. Like, they're taking all these fish. Like, it just makes you sick to your stomach. Like, and that's what I want them to understand is, like, you're hurting the recreational guys that are putting in the money, buying boats, buying gear,
hotels,
food, gas to go out and fun fish, when just one boat's going. And these guys these particular guys don't care. You've seen the pictures. It doesn't matter if it's a 100-pound fish, 10-pound fish, they're all going. I mean,
yeah.
And just like the guy I messaged today, the fishery guy, that adds up, and it does. I mean, day after day after day.
So I'm assuming those fish that they're catching, are they going? Is that just sold as nuggets? I mean, those aren't going to the pay lakes. Those are
no, they're fillets and nuggets. Yeah, they just sell them.
Yeah.
And they'll put these guys. They push the line on a lot of stuff they do.
Sure.
But here's the problem, and this is the number one problem. We can make a law tomorrow, and that's great. But I've got one guy that's covering like 4 counties by himself, a DNR agent.
Yeah.
And then if the law, if it's a little fine or a slap on the wrist, that's a waste of time. Like, that law doesn't do anything. Unless you're taking a boat or making something that's life-changing, the law doesn't do nothing unless you've got a good penalty behind it.
Yeah. And that's true to all the fisheries, I think, across the country. There's a lot of laws out there that and they're not protecting them. I mean, Texoma laws are getting broken there all the time, and they don't, on the Oklahoma side even. I mean, the amount of jugs you're supposed to use and the amount of fish over 30 inch is never enforced.
No, well, but at least they have a law. And you take the Missouri River, you haven't been able to commercial fish that for years. And the pictures I sent you, I've seen the same thing on the Missouri River. You know what I mean? It's just catching them. Now the Missouri River is still an incredible fishery, but you know, I always keep saying my thing to that is, well, commercial fishing, maybe that's a tough job and it sucks, but maybe it's that old generation that'll slowly kind of weed itself out. And I don't know that that's the case. I think that just continues. I mean, it's like more and more people get involved in it. And the money's good from what I hear.
I want to kind of get, you know, something that's changed. The money's good. I think that's the problem, is the money's good. I went into a fish market when I was fishing pre-fishing Ray Hover tournament. So where I was catching my shad got blown out with a flood. So I stopped at, somebody gave me a tip on a particular bait that I could get fresh at a grocery store. So I stopped there, and it's very unique. I had never been in one. I'm a country boy. And I'm not gonna say the name of the grocery store. But I walk in there and I go back to the fish market area and they have aquariums in this grocery store. And these species of fish that make really good bait. But not only that, I'll give you an example. They had seafood at $6 a pound and tilapia at $8.97 a pound because it was alive and that fresh. But right next to it, they had blue cat in, clean it fresh, fly for you at $10 a pound.
Wow.
And then the flounder was $6.95. To kind of give you an idea. But that, you know, that was a big difference in the freshness. The flounder was on ice. It was already dead. It was shipped there on ice. These blue cat look like, I got video of them. The blue cat are, I don't know, 8 to 14 pounds inside the aquarium. The tilapia are pound to 2 pound in the seafood section. It was the price. I mean, how much, you know, it costs for a fillet of catfish today is expensive, fresh. And as long as it's there,
yeah,
they're
no,
going to
I
be.
agree. And there's just got to be regulations, and whether it's they can have so many over per day, but when there's no regulations, and then the fact that they go to pay lakes just blows my mind. You know, I'm glad Alabama. You know, I screwed up as a tournament director last year you fished that tournament going to Savannah, Tennessee. You know, I didn't realize that Alabama had that changed the law where you can't transport a live fish out of the state. So our tournament on Pickwick and below, if you fish Pickwick, you can't fish Alabama waters because you can't technically leave Alabama waters with that fish alive. It's kind of crazy because it's one lake, but it's separated. But they even deal with the bass tournament on some of their regulations. But you know, I can't go against that we push to make that law, and then they give us a pass. You know. So some anglers are mad, and that was my mistake. But that's a good law. I mean, I hope I got to deal with that in Illinois at some point.
You know, you brought that up. Is that's a law at most of the states. So really, right? So when we had the tournament at Texoma, we were on the Oklahoma side at the casino. So there was kind of a, you know, what's the difference? So we had to call Texas, the game wardens, and say, hey, what's the deal? So we have anglers. It's a trailer event coming from the Texas side, bringing fish to the casino, and is against the law. Yeah, it was against the law. Well, number one, most states it's against the law to transport water. That's the first law. And then to take it across state lines is another law. But you know, when it comes to tournament stuff, there's an unwritten rule in the state of Texas, because I've asked for it. He said, well, when it comes to tournaments, we let that slide. It's no big deal. Yeah, but where does it say that on paper? He said, all you have to do, what they'll say is just as long as your tournament angler has a proof that he's registered in the tournament, we won't. That's the proof. That's the law. It's not written.
But you remember what I had to do last year? I had to give everybody a piece of paper.
At
Fort Smith.
It's for yeah. Well, at Texoma, when we did it, we just got permission on both sides of the state. It was verbal, and there was no problems. But yeah, it's a law. I mean, we can't transport water across the line either because of the zebra mussel problem.
Oh yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's why all the permits, and I mean, a lot of that takes time. I mean, the amount, Iowa's pretty rough. They've got a terrible permit system. But Oklahoma and Arkansas, having them work together, I had to have them do a meeting with each other that I had to be in. It's just crazy how many meetings to get a permit finalized. Because then I had to, for the tournament, for everybody to have a piece of paper, I'd have one for Miller Fisheries so he could take them back. I mean, it's just wild, and we're keeping them alive. But again, you talk about the live water. I tried to do a tournament out of Kansas City, a really unique tournament out of Kansas City. In the state is zero. I mean, no chances can you fish the Missouri River and leave water in your live well to go to a different area for a weigh-in. And I was going to have like a special place to release your water. I would take care of the fish, all the fish. They could release their water in a certain area. Like, they didn't even want to talk about it. I mean, it was absolute no, not going to happen.
Is that because of zebra mussels up there too, or?
Yeah, and all their other little things. But Kansas they don't play. I mean, Kansas is serious about, unless you have a good end. And the problem is that switches a lot. You know, one guy that you might know this year has moved to a different position or state next year. And then you're like fighting that battle again.
Yeah, what I like about Kansas though is, we have a lot of slot lakes and bass down here. Well, Kansas does too, but they have a tournament pass. So if there's a bass tournament on a slot lake, they get a pass. They can weigh those fish in that are within the slot. Texas doesn't do that, but Kansas hasn't allowed the catfish tournament to yet, I guess.
And I tried that, and they said that that's like a year process. So when I went to Milford, it was too late in the game to even play with it. But it's just, again, it goes back to a lot of states still thinking catfish is kind of they don't care about catfish yet. It's slowly changing, I think, and getting some of the, as it grows, whether it's tournament anglers, guides, just more people in the sport, it slowly gets that needle moving to more of a professional side and more of a game fish and people caring.
No, they're seeing the changes, and it's great. Just hopefully, like, the state of Illinois gets on board soon. That'd be great.
Because Illinois, that's a lot of damage. The way that state ends up on the Ohio, the Mississippi, the Illinois River, I mean, it's a lot of water. It's a ton of water.
Yeah, because if the state of Illinois would do something, then Missouri's right there waiting. I mean, I'm assuming they'll jump in because they've already got laws. Just they're not going to enforce anything on the Mississippi because it doesn't do any good.
Yeah.
Right? You know how that works?
Oh, it does no good.
Yeah.
I think Missouri's got like a 6 law. I don't know what their commercial side is, but it doesn't matter. You just put in Chester and Illinois, and you're good to go.
Yeah,
it's wild. Illinois is the wild, wild west when it comes to fishing. I mean, do what you want. You know what I mean? They don't care. So hopefully that changes.
Yep.
We'll just keep striving to make that happen. So, what else have we not talked about?
You still you plan on announcing any kind of direction on a championship coming up pretty soon?
Wednesday afternoon's my plan. I should find out Wednesday afternoon, and I've got at least one more event to put up. Just trying to dial this in. A lot of people give me crap. I know you give me a little crap. You know what it's like.
I know.
It's not.
I know what it's like, and people gave me crap, so I'm going to give you crap.
It's so, I'm a busy guy, and just like tonight, I made a quick funny video as I was leaving. Me and Liz had to drive separate a half hour away from our town just so I could watch Rhett play basketball, and I had to leave. Like, they blowed the whistle, and I was gone. I couldn't ride with her just because I didn't know what time the game would get done, and I wanted to get back here. And I got back just a few minutes before we could go live. I called you. I said, I got everything. The computer's sitting running. Everything is ready to go. I just got to run upstairs. But, and again, working with cities and states and permits and all that just takes time. And now, there's 3 Sea Arc owner events we're doing, and almost, with Fishing for Freedom, all the Twisted Cat events, it adds up. And that's just a small portion of what I do. But, I try to go to, and I talk to you about this a lot, I like to go to areas that are fun and not just, there's more to it, whether it's a Louisiana tournament or Arkansas, like the Fort Smith. I mean, I'm looking for areas that have good fishing, fun for the angler where you could bring your wife and maybe she can go shopping, but hang out. And, I think that we're slowly finding that, piecing that together and slowly moving some. But then you get to the point where you got to drop some tournaments, and that's tough. Yeah. Muscatine, Iowa, we're probably not 99% not going to go there. And it's just because I can't fit it on the schedule. It's a great event, but it doesn't work out. And we've talked back and forth, but Lake Ray Hubbard, it was a great event. Will we go there next year? Will we move it to another lake? I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts, to that.
Points for me. I just, I kind of like the direction of some of the tournaments you have going. So I hope.
Well, the goal is, when you think of, I guess, people on here maybe that don't know where I live, our Twisted Cat's home base is literally, I hate to say it's in Illinois, but it's right where Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri come together. The Mississippi is right behind me, like 30 yards behind me is the Mississippi. But when I look out my window, I can see Missouri and Iowa. So, we used to just do tournaments from St. Louis to Burlington in a pretty small radius, for years. And as we've grown, now Alabama to Texas, we're looking at some other places. It's 16 hours from my house, 12 hours here. And you got to go to those places once or twice to kind of see how the logistics work and all that, because you want it to be a good event. But hopefully this will be the best schedule yet, in my opinion, year 11. And again, as you know, all the sponsors, especially these premier sponsors on the bottom that make it happen, make that $25,000 championship. This year, we're doing a 2-day championship just so if Bryan gets them on day one, it wasn't a lucky day for him. He's got to do it 2 days in a row.
if Bryan qualifies.
Yeah. What do you think of that? I see everybody's doing it different. And I don't know if the way I'm doing it's the best. Who knows? It's what I've came up with. But my goal is as an angler myself, I want it to be tough. I don't want to just go fish a couple tournaments and you're in. Like, I want you to be good to qualify to come fish against the championship. Like, you gotta be the best of the best. Do you feel like if you qualify that you're a decent angler? I mean, last year there's people that tried 8-9 tournaments and couldn't get in.
Yeah, no, I like it. I did. So I didn't. So Coy qualified. He fished a couple of tournaments.
Oh, you didn't get in, did you?
So he got up in there where, and I'm not making excuses, but I made a decision not to pursue a couple of tournaments because I knew I was going to go. So that part of it kind of changed the game a little bit too. When you have an angler that fished the 3 tournaments or whatever to qualify. But I'll give you an example. So in 2023 was the first season that Coy and I fished to try to do it. I was in the hospital till May, so we only were able to, and we'd already pre-planned to do this, not knowing I was going to get sick. So we were only able to fish 4 tournaments. So we fished the 4 tournaments. We qualified. It was easy. Last year wasn't easy. This year's is going to be harder. I really think
this year's going to be. I'm scared that this is going to be pretty tough this year. As it's spread out, you got more people traveling. You're touching different areas. You're giving some people up north a chance. I mean, it's a different ball game.
Yeah, and I've talked to some anglers. Because you can't dip down into Texas. I think there's going to be some few more teams added to. Are going to travel a little more, so you start to see that growing a little bit. So it starts changing. I mean, you could look at the qualifying. Last year, the numbers went up considerably to qualify, and I think it's going to go up even higher this year. So, strategically, I've been looking at it a little bit different. We've had some. You've seen some of the conversations we've been having, and it's going to take some networking, I think, and working hard, a little bit harder to possibly qualify.
And again,
tournaments differently. How you fish it and. Pick certain ones.
Because everyone's different the time of year. Going to, we got 2 tournaments in Pool 19. One's Fort Madison in May, one's Burlington in September. They'll both be phenomenal events. Big turnouts. I mean, we had 10 bags over 50 pounds in Burlington, that tournament you went to?
So after fishing Burlington, and I didn't do very well, but I did well pre-fishing. I learned a little bit. So before that tournament, the reason I went up there was because a friend of mine lives up there, doesn't fish tournaments, so him and his daughter fish with me. And I would have swore I'd never fished a channel cat fishery on the Mississippi River ever, but they're on my list this season, so I'll probably fish all of them. I may back off on some of the other stuff, but I enjoyed it. Um, I think for an angler
And
like
you got terrible points because of how good the fishery was.
no, but I
Almost
think
every boat weighed fish, right?
no, I don't think it's not like there's going to be less people showing up for those tournaments, but I felt like as an angler, I could probably do better.
True.
Kind of the fishing I do, even though it's channel cat versus bumping the Mississippi River. I can go drag Burlington and or some of those other areas, and that's what I'm good at. So I'm going to target more what I do better at, and so that's kind of tournament fishing I'm going to do this season. I don't want to not qualify, especially if it's somewhere where I want to be this year at the championship.
Yeah,
So
and you got I already got these printed, so they're ready. That Liz is like, we got to do these. I don't think it's there. Come on, there we go. So did you get your 23 and 24 sticker yet? Well, then Coy must have them, but Liz is handing his out. So this is for 2025. So the date changes in the color right there. So giving stickers for every year. So I think that's an accomplishment, getting a sticker every year, making the championship. Like I said, it's what I would love to do. Like I want to see where I would fit in if I got to fish a trail. It sucks. There's sometimes I'm like, this sucks. Like I'm watching you guys out there. I want to go out there and fish against you so bad, so bad.
Yeah, it's like I say, last year got a little bit stressful because I don't know, we didn't do well last year, but the year before we did really well. But and I say we actually finished well in some of the tournaments, but it did the number still. You didn't have to reach that number. I don't know what it was last year, 750 or whatever it was.
Oh, it was crazy.
And you look at it too, and we at the last tournament we didn't do well, but we went ahead and weighed in because we're thinking about points. Well, I'm not so sure. I think we get to dump our fish with those points, those type of points. And a lot of the guys are turning in because those aren't useful this year. I really don't think they are.
No,
They were in the
I think
past.
yeah. What'd you have? 43rd.
Yeah, but I mean, you're gonna need a top 15.
Oh, yeah.
20. It was top 25 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's definitely different. And you had anglers coming to Keystone, Gilbert, Cold Delp. You had guys that they would have had to get first and like an extra 30 points to even have a chance.
Yes.
Still just wanting to show up, be a part of the group, knowing, dang it, I didn't make it, but they just wanted to be a part of it. And that was cool. And that's what I'm trying to grow is like that. Everybody wants to be a part of it. It's a fun group of people. And a lot of new anglers are coming in each year. That's what's crazy. I mean, a lot of new anglers.
No, I think you'll see some more from Texas starting to migrate north a little bit and fish some of the tournaments that you haven't seen before in the past. So that when they do that and you see it grow, that increases not it changes the number, the qualification.
Yeah, if you think even if just 10 more people try to get in than last year, that changes it a lot. I mean, last year there was a lot of people, and I feel bad. Like they don't get to come. I feel, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. It's curious. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think some decisions might have to be made. Teams are going to split up and move around, and
Well, let's talk about that. That happened in Texas. So Charles Blair, Donald Moore, they said we're going to leave the boat at home. We're going to go with the Draggin Master team, split up. You get to go with Donald. Charles jumps in with Coy. And it's just one of those days. And it didn't work out because you guys are like at the end. You know what I mean?
Right. It didn't work out for that one, but you may see more of that happen. Not just with us, but you've seen it with other teams are doing it too. I call it networking, tournament networking, where you kind of like, we're fishing our area, what we're good at. This is not what we're good at. Maybe we switch up and get in other boats to qualify different because there's no rule against it. So why not take advantage of it because of the competition? And it's, as an angler, it's cool because I get to learn, if I get to jump in the boat with Donald and I haven't fished with him in his part of the country, learning something. about the fishery and different things and stuff like that. So to me, it's a unique way to do things because you
Well,
learn
that's
something.
why that's why we do it angler based, because I mean, if you look at the points, maybe besides like John and Kevin, very few anglers stay together. I mean, you know, let's say that you got a tournament next weekend and Coy's got a wedding reception or something he's got to be at. You know, you can still go and fish. You know, the only thing I changed this year is 3 instead of 2 tournaments, just to kind of entice more participation. But, you know, if you fish 3 tournaments, and as long as you're good buddies with somebody in the top 50, you can probably go. I mean, you asked Nate Moore. I think Nate Moore had to pay $1,000 to jump in a boat with somebody last year.
No,
he wanted to go that bad.
Well, you could also see, there's 50 teams that qualify and usually 22 to 23 boats because those anglers stay together. But what if they all split up and, you could have 40, 50 boats at the championship? If they
True, but I think a lot of them, and yet it's not. Last year was the biggest turnout we had. I think we had. Do we have 25?
I thought it was 23, but 24 maybe.
20. Everybody fished. Everybody fished last year that made it, besides Doug Rice. Everybody else was there. He couldn't with work. The year before, I think we maybe missed 2. It's so the people that are trying to get in, they want to be in. Like I said, it's just kind of interesting to see how that's growing as Twisted Cat is getting into Texas and Alabama, and people maybe experience an event and say, hey, I want to fish too. And then you got 1 or 2. See, JT said 27 boats.
Huh. I thought it was 24.
And it could be. But there was some very unique things that happened last year where, you know, you missed a tournament or 2 and Coy made it. And Coy and you and Coy were in a boat. So that was 1 boat.
Yeah, like Coy fished with Trenton in Perryville tournament, or one of those tournaments, and I think he fished with JT, Monty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Monty's, and then you take it the other way. You take some people that are doing 3 guy teams, and that really takes it down. You might see 16, 17 boat turnout. You just never know. Right. Let's talk one more thing though about, and I hate to bring a Jackson Mitchell up in this. Do you remember what Jackson Mitchell said though last year? Jackson, if you're watching, I love you, brother, but we got to bring it up.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and tell me? Because I think you were there when he said it, right?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but yeah.
What he said? He says, well, I'm going to fish these 4. It'll be easy to get in.
Something like that, yeah.
It'll be easy to make the Twisted Cat Championship. I'll fish these 4.
Yeah.
So he went to Perryville, first tournament. Who'd he fish that with? Did he weigh?
No, he fished. Is that when he fished with Trent? No. Yeah, no, that wasn't Perryville. That was when you went to St. Joe. Perryville was canceled.
We went back to Perryville in August. He fished with somebody in August.
But St. Joe, he fished with Trenton and
they got skunked.
They got skunked. But you know what?
Long story short, he didn't make the championship.
Who? No. But you know what sucked for him was at Perryville pre-fishing before it got canceled. He was on some super big fish. He sent me pictures. We were there. They turned around and went home. But yeah,
there he goes. There's
yeah.
St. Joe, we fished, didn't catch a fish. So you can't just say, hey, which they're asking a question. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to fish 4 tournaments and qualify.
No, maybe year before last you could.
I mean, unless you do really good in those 4. So the question is, so you only have to fish 3 tournaments and 4 and not 4 to qualify. So how it is let's say that we end up with 13 tournaments. We're going to take every tournament you fish, whether it's 4, 5, 10, all of those, and pick your best 4. So whether it's, like I said, if you only fish 3, there's no way you'll get in. If you fish 4 and you do rather good, you have a chance. So let's say that me and Bryan are on a team and we fish 6 tournaments, but I can only fish 3. But Bryan makes it and I don't make it. Let's say I'm 116th. As long as I fish 3 and Bryan made it, he can make me his partner. I'm qualified to be a partner, not to take a boat or be a captain.
Correct.
So that's how. And then for the points to be the the JT Ray, the Ric Flair with the belt, the points angler of the year, which is even tougher because that's not been one. Whoever goes into the championship in the lead has never held that lead. So we take your best 4 plus the championship. So Jason Hamilton got beat out 2 years ago. Aaron Gerald got beat out last year at the championship. A lot of pressure comes down to the championship.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I don't think I'd want to be in the lead going into the championship.
I mean, if you go on the history, I got to find out who was in the lead 3 years ago. But if you go into the history, it's not good.
No,
it's not
too much
good.
pressure.
Donald says easy. So I don't know. Like I said, that's, as a tournament angler myself, it's kind of built to, with a lot of help of you anglers that have gave me advice, you, Bryan, is it's fun for everybody, but it's competitive. But you can still go at that grassroots level. You take the guys, the kids that won it last year. I call them kids. They're in their 20s.
Right. Oh, and how
nobody would have thought those 2 guys, they've never been south of Alton, Illinois, but they made it. They're awesome anglers up here. They've been fishing since they were toddlers with their dad. They did awesome in Burlington, Pekin. They did pretty good in Alton. And then I can't remember the other one they fished, Muscatine. And they made it. And they come down, never been below Alton. So Alton from Helena is what, 6 hours, 7 hours, a long ways. They go down there, they pre-fish, and the fishing's through all the guys that know what they're doing. You can't. How did we do last year? You can't pre-fish Friday.
Yes.
Boat, you can be on the water, but no lines in the water on Friday. So what made that unique is, Aaron Gerald, love you, Aaron, don't hate me. He goes down there Saturday, fishing, on fish, good fish, rock and roll. Wednesday, Thursday, what happens? Big storm comes in. Rain, water's coming up, cold weather, everything flip-flops. So these guys that are out there, they work on catching some bait, and they go up in a little tributary and catch PBs and win the tournament. Thinking outside of the box, some anglers that aren't used to, like, it's hard when Bryan's down there and some areas that should hold fish, but the weather patterns changed and you can't put a line in the water on Friday, and Thursday you could barely be on the water. So now you're almost going in blind, and that makes it tough.
Yeah. Yeah. Me and Coy pre-fished 3 days, and then the off day, I came back here for my daughter and then drove through the night. We fished an area we didn't even go to, and it paid off because luckily we saw there was going to be a difference in the change of weather and things that were happening, and the fishing sucked, so we made a big move and fished somewhere where we had fished in the past but never hadn't fished it yet, and it paid off for us, and we were able to get it checked, but and doing something we've never done on the Mississippi River before, and I'll be doing more of that this year.
But thinking outside of the box, and that's what you got to do in a scenario where we always say, how many boats? It's noon, you don't got a bite, and I get a text, hey, fishing sucked for us today, we're on our way home. I'm like, you have 3 hours of fishing left.
Yeah.
So many times have I done well in a tournament at 1, 2 o'clock. Even at that tournament, there were several boats that caught fish in the last hour. One fish in a catfish tournament can change everything.
Yeah. Oh, no. Me and Courtney, that's the first time we've ever fished the same spot all day long. And every time we make a pass, we upgraded all day long until the very last pass. We didn't upgrade. So, yeah, you never know.
My favorite thing when I'm going to fish a tournament, I'm going down to MRM, is talking to people, and it's Tuesday, it's Wednesday, and they are on them like crazy. They got the spot, they're ready, they've caught all these big fish, and I'm like, sweet. And then tournament day, too many things change. There's just, you can't buy from Tuesday to Saturday. It's very rare that spot's going to hold.
So I'm not going to call them arguments, but Ray Hubbard was that. So pre-fishing was tough for us. We caught fish, but as I talked to some of my Texas buddies, and I kind of had a little arguments, but especially at my VRBO, I was staying at because it was a big group. Oh yeah, there's going to be 10 teams over 100 pounds tomorrow. It's like, no, there's not. It's not possible. And got into that argument, and then I got to thinking that night, man, what is going on in this lake that I wasn't seeing? But a lot of people at the check-in line, other people from up north, oh yeah, it's going to be an amazing weigh-in this afternoon. I was like, we missed something. Me and Donald missed something. I don't see it, but they were catching those fish. I was surprised to hear, after the tournament, they were catching 30, 40, 45 pounders, several of them a day. Man, we didn't see that. But we didn't see it at the weigh-in either. There was one team that got over 100 pounds, and the next in line was 79. And that's where I thought me and Donald saw that in pre-fishing. That's what we kind of
Yeah.
figured it was going to be. But they swore up and down, during pre-fishing, those guys were catching 30 and 40 pounders. I caught a 40 pounder. Right, they called me up right where you were at. They caught a 40 pounder there yesterday. And a 40 pounder on that spot, and a 40 pounder on that spot. We've been here for a week. But I don't know.
But that's how. I mean, now was there current days before?
We were actually there was current the day of the tournament. We had actually started. We fished in current. We were anchored in current, not strong current, but it was still current. Where we started, we fished a half a day there, and we never could get the fish. We had actually caught a fish the morning before and got out of there, and thought maybe we could probably put a couple of fish in the high 20s on anchor in the current. And we got there the following morning, the current was still there. It wasn't quite as strong. The day before, I think I threw out like a 3 ounce in a 90-degree in the current, and it moved it, straight down the creek. The next day, it wasn't quite as strong, but you could see it. It was still moving, but fish weren't there. But yeah, it was a unique tournament. I think that's probably why. I think the bite actually happened really strong the day before. The rain messed everything up, and then there was a day of fog where people couldn't even maneuver on the lake, too. I think that was on Wednesday. That made it tough to get around, but.
Well, I don't know. Lot, like I said, lot to learn. It's exciting. I can't wait to see. We only got 2 tournaments in, and you can start to see people are starting to get put together. But the first boat 105, first tournament 105 boats. This last tournament 46, 45 boats. Alton last year I think we had 84 boats. So some higher number tournaments and the competition. You take Burlington, Fort Madison. Some of those events had almost every boat weighed in really good weight. So, I mean, some people went up there and got a 45th finish or a 53rd, and that just doesn't help. So, I mean, you got to go and grind in these areas and like we talked about, there's a lot of newer anglers getting in and younger. I mean, you take like a Dylan Lawson, Tyson. There's some young kids getting involved, getting in the championship stuff. The guys that won the championship last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's changed from 3 years ago to today.
Yeah.
So
I know. Maybe I need to call Dylan Lawson when I come up there to fish those channel catfish trees and pay the entry fee.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. I like I said, I can't wait to see. But for me and you, I think our next 1v1, we got to go to a lake we've never been on, and I think you know what lake I'm talking about. It's really big.
It's huge. Okay. We're thinking the same.
So I think that maybe we'll go. We each get 1 day to pre-fish.
Okay.
And then tournament day, we're live, and we can just do as many as you catch or whatever.
I'm on. I know what you're talking about. I can't wait.
So
we have to stay
I
away
wonder.
from it.
We just got to figure out when. My schedule's a little kind of silly. Is April too late for that?
There, I don't know. Never been there.
I'm just saying my February is a little rough, and then March it's Alton, Fort Smith, Bass Masters and then the Sea Art Crappie tournament. But then April, I could do April 5th, something maybe that the early April.
Yeah.
We could shoot for.
Yeah.
Because right now it's technically 1-1. Not technically, I mean it is 1-1.
Yeah.
Granted, the comeback I had on our first one, I think I was weighing a few of those fish in kilograms to start off the tournament. And I think that hurt me.
Possibly.
Let me ask you this. Did you know I was weighing them wrong?
No, I could.
Okay.
I had no clue. I wasn't paying attention. They all look pretty small, so there wasn't much difference in the kilograms and the pounds. I think I learned a lesson in 1v1, and I don't want to get into this, but when you've got a really hefty lead,
don't get cocky.
Don't get cocky. Don't change your pattern, because when you're on live feed and you're whoever you're beating's they're paying attention to what you're doing. You can in a lot of ways.
I agree.
So you're paying attention. So he's gonna get better because he's getting his ass whooped, right? So he's gonna look and see what I got to do something different. He's got to make changes. The leader is gonna get comfortable in a 1v1, especially if you're 50, 60 pounds ahead and you're watching.
You're almost 100.
Yeah, one time I saw a screenshot and I was like 101, and you were 40, so you were starting to come up. And that I had on one of my pictures. Started to send it to you the other day, but I got relaxed, not necessarily cocky. I got relaxed. I didn't need to do anything else because you weren't making any moves. Your numbers weren't going up. I didn't have to do anything. And then that last hour and a half, you made a move, and when you started coming up, it was too late for me really to make another move, get out of there, go make the move like you made. So I learned a lesson. If you're in the lead on a 1v1, you keep hammering. No matter what, 200 pounds ahead, 300 pounds ahead, you keep hammering.
It doesn't matter. I mean, I learned a lot too. I mean, that's what's fun about the 1v1 as an angler fishing it or somebody watching it. Like, I had to make a change, and I always talking about anglers making a change. And I was fishing an area that had a lot of different things. I had deep, I had shallow, I had ledges, I had rock, sand, mud, everything, but nothing was happening. And you were smoking me. And I'm like, I'm just thinking, whatever I do, I got to leave this area. Like, I don't know if it's just that section of river sucks or whatever, but I'm done. Right. I remember I left, and I'm just there. Coy's now on. So it's you, Coy's the guest, and Glenn. And I'm just thinking, now Brian's got his partner on here. They're smoking me. This is embarrassing. People are literally, as I'm driving the boat, you're up you got quadruple my weight, and I'm literally reading live messages. He's going to the ramp. He's going home. He should just quit. Yeah. That is tough as an angler in that position, knowing how do I have a chance to not just give it up? But you can't. You got to go. And like that, I mean, that was awesome. If that's like one of them comeback stories that you watch movies on.
Yeah, that was epic, and that made it fun. That made it, kind of. I didn't like it, but to me, it made it exciting. Even on my side of it, I was looking at it as a tournament director part of it. It was really cool to see what was fixing to happen, and people to be able to watch that, especially in a tournament, to be able to see how you can make a comeback. And like you said, the team that gave up and went home 3 hours early, man, that's not the thing to do. You can 100 pounds behind and something like that. You started catching those 20s. It don't take very many 20s to make up 100 pounds. And yeah, it was unique. So yeah,
I remember I was in that area. I mean, I will never forget that last hour of my life right there, ever. Like, just how I caught the fish, what was happening, everything was working in my favor. The wind, how I could turn around, and I just remember oh my! I would get a fish in the boat, and I was weighing it, and another rod got slammed, and I'm like Ric Flairin, and I'm asking how close am I? Some guy in a John boat rolls in, and he thinks, because Liz is sleeping, which I don't know how she's just like, she can't help or anything, and this guy probably thinks I'm some lunatic just by myself, like talking, and then I'm hollering like Rick, going woo, and catching all these fish. And he's like, "This is insane." He's got a fish between his legs. He's reeling in one down. He's weighing them, throwing them back, and I don't know who he's talking to, but it was just an incredible. Yeah, and that's why, like, still to this day, like that area, the Red River, how you fish at Louisiana. Like I always say, in my next life, I'm going to live in Louisiana. Like something about it has drawn me in.
And the other area, and the other place that we're talking about doing, I just think that's probably just as good or a spot. Yeah.
So we're going to make it happen. It's a done deal. So we'll try to knock in a date here soon, and we'll get it going in live. I don't know what the bet is. I do got to trim this up sometime. I don't know if we do a mustache bet. That mustache I'm not a mustache guy, so that was a little rough for me to have. I mean, I got beat up in my local area a little bit wearing a mustache. But it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Look forward to it. Look forward to the Twisted Cat outdoor season, and also CatCon. I guess that's coming up pretty quick too. 2
weeks, yeah. February 21st and 2nd. You'll be there. That's always a good time. Like I said, I'm excited. We're going to be leaving Wednesday. We'll have Twisted Cat down there, and then you'll be there. Sea Arc, I think we're taking 11 boats total. So I think a lot of people are going all in. Unfortunately, Ripping Lips, as you see behind me, we got a ton of new colors we've been working on, some that glow in the dark, but Legacy and HD models, they won't be until like end of March. So we won't have Ripping Lips there because we don't have all of our new stuff, but I'll have this stuff up display so you can see what we got coming out. And we'll have some Livingston lures for sale. You can use TCO 15 on Livingston's website, and then I have some of these at a pretty good price. I will update quantities because I don't have as many as I say that's on there or whatever, but yeah.
No, are those on your website?
These are, yes.
They're on the Ripping Lips or
on Twisted Cat. I got 6 of them.
Okay.
I had a bunch of people that wanted them, so that's really the only good way to sell them is through the website. And then I had Eric do a TCO 15, so 15% off is still really good too.
Yeah.
But we'll have a bunch. He's supposed to ship a bunch more for CatCon, and then we'll have a bunch at CatCon as long as they get here by Tuesday. But we'll also ship them too, and then have them at the tournaments. I got to definitely get some more Draggin Master tackle. Gosh, look at that! That one got beat up.
I can hook you up.
You can hook me up. Yeah. I definitely want to get some of the stinger hooks because in April I am going to demolish you.
I wish I hadn't taught you that trick.
I know. I'm glad that you did, or I'd be 2 or 0-2 right now.
You know what's cool about that trick, and we can show them a video some other time, but it's just a quick something you have in your tackle box. It's quick. If you have a problem,
and then you can take it off if you don't need it.
Off. Yeah, it comes on and off. It works.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. All right, well, dude, I appreciate you, Brian, being on the live. This is 2.5 hours, but I think we covered a lot of good info and talked about a lot of cool things. And we'll be together here in 2 weeks. Maybe we'll do maybe we'll do some videos down at CatCon, and then we'll get the date out for everybody to see a true 1v1 butt whipping.
Yeah,
all right, I'll be 2-1 after that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
All right, well, everybody, thanks for watching. Our next tournament is coming up March 1st, Alton, Illinois. You can go to the twistedcatoutdoors.com to see our tournaments. We'll have the full schedule hopefully posted Wednesday evening, and we'll blast it everywhere. And like I said, really excited to continue the 11th season of Twisted Cat Outdoors. And we'll see everybody next Monday. I think we'll be maybe at C-Deck next Monday doing our live, but we'll get it posted here soon. Everybody have a good night. Brian, again, thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me.
See you soon.
See y'all.